Hello, this is Harry from Purple Jam. I'm just going to be doing the vlog this week, and in it we're going to talk about the production process for our first person audio games going forward. Primarily I want to talk a little bit about the template that we've developed for creating first person audio games. Now the means through which we've made this is by taking the engine and the scripts used for A Detective's Demise and generalizing them to the point where they can be used for essentially all of our first person games going forward. This of course primarily means being used for a Dusklight story and each individual level for that. The reason this is quite exciting for us as a company and as developers generally is that it means our rate of production can increase massively. For A Detective's Demise, there are a great number of bespoke scripts in there that weren't necessarily, before this template was made, applicable to all of our first person games going forward. So I was just going to run through a few of those things which we've been developing for a long time for A Dusklight Story, and also for a shorter period of time for A Detective's Demise. Our main thing being audio game developers is that our mixer, our audio mixer, which essentially takes all the audio sources and varies the levels of them in a dynamic way, so that you can have these large bustling environments from an audio perspective, but you don't lose the focus and the gameplay is still directed. Now there are a number of things we do through automating the mixer in this way that make the game feel more cinematic and make it a lot more playable. In A Detective's Demise, for example, when you're speaking to the civilians, we treat those as sort of mini cutscenes. The focus in that scene should be on what the civilian is saying, and so you'll notice if you listen for it that the ambience reduces of every other positional source and the general ambience in the playable area. That's so that your ear can pick out, oh okay, we're supposed to be listening to this at this point. The same is true as during full cutscenes, for example during the retro retriever scene in A Detective's Demise. What happens there is the entirety of the audio mixer is reduced in some way other than the stereo source, which is the retro retriever scene. This is used again in the fight scenes. You'll notice that when you take down Pegleg or Rex, that the rest of the ambience isn't completely removed, but again we want to get this idea of focus, and so it's all low pass, and so it starts running like this, as well as being reduced in volume. This is just all about directing the attention of the player. Of course, from a mechanical perspective, the auditory zoom mechanic makes use of this in a very large way, and we've actually implemented a new pitch lowering technique in A Detective's Demise that wasn't previously a feature in the demos you may have played for A Dusklight Story. Another more subtle example of this automation in the mixer is whenever you're looking at an audio source, as in facing the direction of it, that audio source increases in volume ever so slightly. Now as you turn to the side it reduces a little bit, about 5 dB, and then as you turn and it's right to the back of you, in order to remove some of the front back confusion which can be quite present in binaural audio, we significantly reduce that volume. Now all of these things when they're together make for a very adaptive and dynamic mixer, which uses a large number of scripts to in real time essentially automate the entire of the audio scene to focus the player's attention. Not only do we use this mixer automation, which we can carry forth into all of our first person games, the template also includes the work we've done on the main menu and pause menu systems. For example, the detective talking in between each option, and also the game logic associated with that. So when you enter a new game, that has to load a new scene, it has to automate the mixer in a certain way, and there are various other technical things that have to happen to make that all run smoothly. We've also integrated a new loading screen and loading system. And by loading screen, what I really mean is, because this is an audio game, loading audio. Finally, there are a number of ways that we ensure that the space never becomes too busy, in terms of when you encounter different civilians and different reactive audio sources, as in they react to the player's presence. You don't want all of those to be happening at once at the same time, even if you're moving very quickly through the space, because to do so sort of removes importance from each individual one. So what that means is you have to know when the playable character is responding to someone. You have to know when every reactive source in the scene is playing, and then you have to make sure that all the other reactive sources know when each reactive source is playing, so that you don't get any overlap of content. That's actually quite a tricky problem, which we've spent a lot of time working on with A Detective's Demise. But now we've got a solid solution to that. Going forward, it will be less of an issue, and this is also included in the template. Going forward then, it means that our various roles within the development of a disc-like story can be a little bit more focused, in that Connor can focus on level design and some sound design, as well as writing the script and recording with the actors. Jordan can also continue focusing on sound design and the marketing, and I can work on developing the mechanics that have been shown in the concept mechanics, some of the videos that Connor's done that you may have seen. So it should allow for quicker development of new, more complicated mechanics, as well as quicker production of content and games for us to release to yourselves. Thanks very much for listening to this talk about the production process going forward, and I hope you all enjoy A Detective's Demise, which is out on November 6th if you're watching this before then.